Well, hello and welcome everybody. Dr. Matthews here. Today I want to talk to you about a better plan B because every job is only temporary. Now, stories abound about people who have worked for companies and corporations for years only to have the bottom drop out unexpectedly, leaving them well skilled for an industry that no longer exists for them. A prominent example is the newspaper industry. Once employing thousands, now it's competing with technology and instant news from almost anyone who has access to the internet. Now, although some of these newspaper businesses have thrived, many have done so only through diligence, and many others are still struggling in today's economy. For many people, their plan was always to just retire, work until you're done, enjoy your pension, and then retire. And this was a laudable and notable way of life for many, many years, particularly during the late 60s, 70s, and 80s. But in today's economy, that's not always as realistic. This over reliance on the dream from decades ago has proven disastrous for some, in fact. So, on that note, I'd like to add or recommend to you a couple of pretty impressive books that I think are worth reading or listening to if you listen to the books on CD or books on tape if you have one of those tape recorders still. One of them is called, or it's titled, Who Moved My Cheese? It's an amazing way to deal with change in your work and in your life. It's published back in 1998 by Spencer Johnson. And at the end of this presentation, I will share with you, or actually, if you go to Soldier Cup, you'll find the action links that coincide with this presentation, so you can actually just click on those links and get to those resources themselves. One of the aspects of Who Moved My Cheese was the fact that things change, time changes, and when things change and times change, one has to consider changing along with those times. If not, they'll be looking for something that is absolutely no longer there. Another book that I think is worth mentioning and certainly worth reading is called Blue Ocean Strategy. It was a book published back in 2005 by Chan Kim and Renee Mauborgne, and it argues that companies can succeed by not battling competitors, but by rather creating blue oceans in uncontested market spaces. That is to say, rather than continue to fish in the same place where everybody else is fishing for customers, for products, for revenue, for resources, why not look elsewhere? Look beyond the places that you have already been. One of the things that I liked about both of those books is that it takes a different approach and a different perspective on life in general. It doesn't suggest that you stay stagnant where you are. In fact, it really encourages you to move forward, move into the next, whatever's next in your on your journey. One of the things that I'm coming back to is the fact that some folks who only had a plan A, they've been with the same company for years. They are well liked. They're very dependable. They've never given anybody any cause for any sort of disciplinary action. So when the layoffs or the cutbacks or the right sizings do occur, they are shocked and amazed and quite unprepared for the most part. So what does your plan B look like? You know, today there are very few guarantees that the job that you have today is going to be the job that you have for a long time. Even the military, which was once considered one of the most stable occupations that one could aspire to, as well as other forms of government service, have been largely hit by the RIF, reduction in force. And so anybody who's familiar with the military and the government at large is familiar with the fact that at any given time, with the stroke of a congressional pen, those forces, those job positions, and those jobs themselves can be removed or reduced or folded into other jobs, and then the force would be necessarily shrunk. Not the brightest of perspectives, and not necessarily something that one would be looking forward to. But the reason why I've developed this training isn't to give you a fluffy, warm, fluffy feeling. It's to bring you into line with what reality actually looks like. And in some cases, it's neither warm nor is it fluffy. One of the things that you should know is that then, as in now, when the unexpected happens and the unprepared occurs, those without the plan B, they tend to scramble. Sometimes plan A gets tossed out the window very, very quickly, but without having any sort of a fallback as to what's going to happen next, whether it's plan B or C or the rest of the alphabet, those folks who have no idea will struggle, and they'll scramble more so than those who have taken just a few steps, taken a few steps and moved just a little bit into the direction of creating a plan B. The question is, if you are now gainfully employed, do you have a plan B? If not, what steps have you taken towards establishing a plan B? Right now is the best time for you to start preparing for your plan B if you haven't already. Do you have sufficient savings or investments, maybe diverse investments, enough anyway to see you through whatever your employment transition might be? Do you have a second, maybe even a third job that you've been working part-time? Do you plan on returning to school, maybe complete your education and obtain a degree? Maybe you might see your layoff or potential layoff as an opportunity to become an entrepreneur. Certainly, it's been said and it's been validated that many folks are not going to get rich, wealthy, or even self-sustained by working for somebody else. So perhaps one of the good things that might happen is for you to get laid off. An individual by the name of Pat Flynn started a smart passive income blog and website, which I'll have that in the action links on the Soldier Cop site. And in his smart passive income blog, which then became a podcast, which has been diversified into a number of other things, one of the things that he continually reminds us of is the fact that he didn't get started because it was his plan B. Initially, he didn't have a plan B. When he was laid off from his work job, he didn't know what he was going to do, and so he turned to a methodology that I'll speak to in just a second that seemed to have helped him, and he started making money. First, a little bit at a time, but certainly wanting to change the lifestyle he was in and still maintain the flexibility to do some of the things that were most important to him. And he's cut out quite a nice niche for himself. I encourage you to visit the Smart Passive Income and read Pat Flynn's story. He's very open and honest and transparent about what it is that he's doing. He's helped a number of other entrepreneurs get started in their journey towards, if not financial freedom, at least passive income to be added to the current income. Perhaps you were thinking that if you're laid off, if your job goes away, you'll have an opportunity to then relocate, maybe move in with your friends or family, if that's something that was already on your mind or something that was already in one of your drop dead plans, one of the last things you might want to do. It's still an option. It's a viable option. Maybe it's not the first option, but it's still a viable option, and you've got a plan. Regardless of the depth of your plan, you at least need to have a plan should your services be determined to be no longer needed. So to strengthen whatever your plan is, I'm going to suggest that you do a couple of things. Assess and evaluate. Assess and evaluate. First, conduct a detailed calculation and determine how much money you think you need to survive for 1 or 2 years. This is the assessment phase. And by survival, this is how much money would you need to pay the bills you have to pay, pay off the debt that you have to pay off, survive by means of having a roof over your head, having food, and if you have a family, of course, providing for your family. If you were to be laid off for an extended amount of time, how much money would you need to have available to you, whether that's broken down weekly or monthly or maybe even annually? Hopefully your job hiatus wouldn't last too very long because you'd already be active and involved in a job search. Then the the evaluation. Estimate how much you could reasonably set aside in your current primary occupation or from your current paycheck. How much could you reasonably set aside each pay period to reach whatever that goal might be? That plan B goal, that secondary goal, that money set aside just in case. How much could you reasonably set aside, and then how long would it take you to reach that plan? All of these are methodologies or methods and thoughts of how you can cut back and shrink down and reduce. But just as important as cutting back on spending, it's equally necessary for you to find ways to add to or increase your revenue. And so I want to go into a couple of things, just a few ideas that I have that you could take and of course use them to your greatest advantage, and extend what it is you're doing now to add to your existing revenue. These are some low cost or no cost suggestions on how you can, as I like to think of it, slightly increase your income. This is not some sort of get rich scheme. This is not some idea that you will be able to quit your current job and then move on full time into something else. I'm just suggesting ways for you to shore up or support the income that you already have. I would suggest that you start by conducting a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for Strength, Weakness, Opportunity, and Threat. And if you want to know more about that, if you visit the Soldier Cop website, you can simply type in SWOT, and it will bring you to a very well-known and well-publicized article on SWOT analysis. It's also going to be in the action link, so you can simply click on there. And then finally, you can always Google it and look it up on whatever or look it up through whatever your favorite internet search engine might be. But the idea is to identify your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and then we could get into the threats. Now, we're not going, in this particular presentation, we're not going to spend any time with the weaknesses, opportunities, or threats. I just want to talk about how you can use your weaknesses, or rather use your strengths to support what it is you're already doing. I've always been a fan of the fact that you should always play towards your strengths. Now, many others that talk in the leadership field and in the areas where they're talking about increasing personal productivity or professional productivity will talk about identifying the weaknesses and then strengthening your weaknesses to level them out. While that's certainly a method, and maybe even a laudable method, one of the things I see that is kind of an unproductive use of your time. Why wouldn't it be better for you to simply identify your weaknesses, recognize them as a weakness, and unless there's some compelling reason for you to strengthen that weakness, just put a check mark there. This is a weakness. I understand this weakness. This is my strength, and I'll play to my strengths. I can outsource my weaknesses to somebody else or to some other venue, or if they're that important, I can figure out ways to later maybe shore them up or make them a little less weak. Once you've identified some of your strengths, consider ways of leveraging these strengths. Now, these are, again, hypothetical strengths that you might have, but they're pretty reasonable. Perhaps you own or maybe you rent a residence that's located in a well-populated neighborhood. By well-populated would be maybe several dozen or several hundred families that are there in the neighborhood. You know who your neighbors are. It's on a fairly accessible street. Have you considered, or maybe you should consider, hosting a monthly yard sale or maybe a garage sale, or they may call it a swap meet or a flea market? If you host it yourself, all you're really doing is you're providing maybe the tables. You bring out a few tables. If they want to hook up particular appliances to show that they're working, then you would, of course, provide the electricity for that. But then you could charge a premium price, maybe $10 or $15 per table. And you might be thinking immediately, well, who would spend $15 to come to my place in order to sell their stuff? Well, that's how the revenue gets started. Sure, they're giving you $10 or $15 up front, but that's all they're paying. They're not paying a percentage on the amount of stuff that they're going to sell. And depending on how you have the tables set out, and if they have furniture or they have other large items, you could also upsell those types of things. But the fact is, it would be at one centralized location with a lot of other folks. And initially, people might think, hey, if I have a yard sale and I have other folks who are competing with me at the yard sale, they'll be stealing my business. While that's always a possibility, that's usually not what happens. If you have a multi-family yard sale or a group yard sale, what you have is a bigger assortment. And when you have a bigger assortment, a larger variety of things to sell, or things that are going to be sold, then that attracts more individuals. And those individuals who are prone to buy the things you have to sell, or the things that are going to be sold, would be prone to buy those things regardless of where they went. And while they're there, perhaps buy some more stuff. Again, as the host of the yard sale, you don't necessarily have to sell anything other than the tables and maybe the space that you're using there, or that's being used. To take that perhaps to the next level, you could engage a few of the local youths to actually staple up or tack up or tape up signs notifying the local population of the yard sales, as well as the individuals who have already rented the tables from you, or who are already signed up to rent the tables from you. They too could invest in their own forms of advertisement. That way the word gets out even further. You could use any of the local media, certainly, and in many areas of the country, yard sales are free, or they're very, very low cost when you add them into the newspaper, and so that makes that drops that advertising cost to just about nil. And the other places, of course, that yard sales are advertised are on Facebook. Now, mind you, some of those are very quick, short-termed Facebook posts. But the fact is, if you're posting this out in a couple of weeks out in advance, and then you post it again, and you remind folks that, hey, I have a yard sale that's going on here. It's a multifamily yard sale. It'll have so many of these types of items, maybe a couple of snapshots of things that are going to be sold at the yard sale. If you have access to those, you can excite and interest individuals to come visit your location in order to find things that they might need, or if those are the individuals who are looking to actually participate in the yard sale by selling, they would know to contact you, and then you could sell them table space. Yard sales, swap meets, miniature flea markets, a wonderful idea, and it doesn't cost you much in terms of money, and yet it could be a revenue maker. Imagine $10 or $15 a table, and you're only doing perhaps 10 tables. That's already $100 to $150 in your pocket for a few hours of setup and just a few pieces of paper as far as advertisement is concerned. If you were to do that perhaps every other weekend, that's a couple of $100 every other weekend, and then again, you've already increased your monthly revenue by anywhere from $200 to $400. It's something to think about. Perhaps another strength you might be good at is creating decorative crafts from everyday items. Now, these crafts you might be able to find the resources here locally within your own home, things that can be repurposed, or perhaps a neighbor's home or the attic somewhere, the things that hadn't been used before. You should consider selling those items, if not at a yard sale or flea market or one of those types of venues, perhaps on eBay or some other similar online sales enterprise. If you are able to produce these items in some quantity, it need not be hundreds or thousands, but perhaps a few dozen, and then have those on sale with a nice photo on eBay, either at the buy it now price of whatever you would think is a fair price, and be able to recoup your time and effort on those things, then that's a quick, easy way of creating revenue. Now, I'm not going to go into how do you build an eBay store. If you're interested in how you can monetize using eBay, again, I encourage you to visit Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income blog and or podcast, because he's interviewed numerous guests who are absolutely crushing it on eBay, and they're actually killing it in these online industries. Perhaps you have an expert knowledge in music or cars, or how to run particular computer programs or computers in general. Maybe you are very astute at how to solve math problems. Maybe a source of revenue for you might be to become a tutor. Using these tutoring opportunities could change, could turn your time into dollars. Whether it's teaching somebody how to play a particular musical instrument at a level of competency that they'd be really looking forward to, or you're helping somebody fix or repair or modify their vehicle, or maybe you're just teaching somebody how to use particular programs on a computer, something you're familiar with because you happen to have done it, whether it's a word processing program or a specific commercial program that you're very good at, that they could become good at. Tutoring is a great way to add revenue to your bottom line without, again, creating or spending a whole lot of excess money or time and resources. You could use the same methodologies or methods for alerting the general public that you have this opportunity available to them using Facebook or social media, one of the other social media networks, as well as perhaps posting something on a local bulletin board in the store. And then, of course, your own personal network, your friends, your family, your colleagues. Once they know that this is something that you're doing in order to help somebody else, and that would have to be the bottom line, that you're trying to help others, they'd be, in many cases, very happy to share your information out. Maybe it's your card, or maybe it's a website that you want folks to go to sign up for. And again, to get more specifics and particulars on that, there are many websites that'll nail those down for you. I just want to provide you with just some overviews of some ideas of how you can use the strengths that you already have. Maybe you're good at breaking down complex concepts and explaining them to a group. Have you ever considered consulting? Consider consulting part-time. Maybe putting together a workshop for a particular niche area. A workshop that I've done a number of times is leadership for law enforcement, in which I go to an established area where local law enforcement leaders who are managers, mid-managers, and perhaps getting ready to take over a leadership role will come, and I'll speak to them for a few hours. We'll work through some scenarios during the workshop, and they will leave with a skill set that they didn't have, or an enhanced skill set that they already had, simply because I was able to provide them with some knowledge, some information they didn't have, also credible information, certainly, but it shortens the learning curve and takes them to the place that they want to be within their professional careers. Maybe you enjoy helping non-native language speakers learn a particular language. The language I've taught here are just Spanish, English, and perhaps even Mandarin. So if you have an English speaker, primary language, a person whose primary language is English, and they're trying to learn Spanish, Mandarin, or some other language other than English, and you're good at whatever the other language is, and you can provide for them some more than just consulting and more than just tutoring, you can actually teach them how to speak this particular language in a manner that would be considered conversational. That's a wide open space for you to leverage. And there's a number of different ways you could do that, whether that's face-to-face or it's over the internet using Skype or Zoom or one of the other face-to-face or semi-face-to-face conference call type of programs or applications. There's a lot of different ways that you could reach out to an audience, particular audience, and teach them a language that may not be native to them. And of course, if you have non-English speakers who are looking to speak English, seeking to speak it in a more colloquial fashion, or maybe just a more professional fashion or professional way, or maybe it's just conversational English that they're looking to shore up within their own speaking capabilities, becoming a teacher or just teaching them English as a sideline. There are also, if you go online, you can go to websites such as, I think it's tutor.com and a couple of others that are pre-existing, and sign up for opportunities to engage in teaching other people how to speak a particular language. And English right now is one of the more popular languages for non-English speakers to sign up for. Perhaps you're gifted in developing physical fitness regimes for sedentary occupations. Maybe you know that sitting at your desk or sitting at the computer or sitting at on the line somewhere can develop or create within individuals some physical debilities that can be overcome through some specific stretching or some specific exercises or some infrequent standing, stretching, and a combination of exercises that can be done right there in the workspace. By becoming a fitness coach, even if it's just at that particular area, for that particular niche area, this is a great opportunity for you to help somebody else and then, of course, earn additional revenue. This is a win-win for just about everybody who's involved. The individual gets healthier, and then you make revenue or add to your revenue on the side. Maybe you enjoy writing or reading information and then sharing that same information. Well, you should consider maybe starting a membership blog, something along the lines of how you could perhaps do something like scrapbooking. That's something you might, if that's something that you enjoy or something that's enjoyable for you. There are plenty of other people who would love to learn how you go about doing making particular scrapbook pages, or if it's some sort of craft that you again are developing or you're very good at. There's lots of folks that you could find a waiting audience looking for an opportunity to absorb the knowledge that you're ready to provide to them. And you could do that through a membership blog. And again, you could advance this a little bit further by going online, either creating a website or using one of the multimedia packages that will allow you to interact with individuals online. And again, if you want to take this to another level, perhaps the next level, you might consider something like recording those videos or recording those activities, and then selling those or even playing those back on your website for the membership themselves. This way you've only done the activity maybe once or twice, and those who are interested in purchasing that specific video and how did you paint that particular scene, or how did you create that particular craft object, they could either buy those videos from you directly, or what a lot of individuals do is they monetize their YouTube site by adding advertising there, and then they simply place these videos on YouTube and allow people to download them at their leisure, and then they recoup a small amount of revenue, usually through the YouTube advertisement. Again, the idea here isn't to give you every step of how you go through that. That can be done at a later time, and there's many other videos and resources that you can use to get you the step-by-step procedure. What I want to do is provide to you a general overview. One of the things I do want to also mention is that even though these tactics can be very useful, they're not designed to replace your primary income. They can at some point replace your primary income if they become very lucrative, or you find that you are, as many people have done, they start out with a hobby which turns into a business, and then find out that their hobby/business is bringing in more income than their primary source of income was. Perhaps then it's time to consider making a change. But that might be down the road for many of you. I know it'll be down the road for many of us for many years, because of just the way that things start out. Many of these ideas, these strengths that turn into hobbies and businesses, they take a little while to get off the ground. And whether a little while is a couple of days or a couple of weeks or a couple of months or maybe longer than that, it's probably not going to be an instant overnight success. But one of the things I can guarantee you is that if you apply the discipline necessary to prepare for 1 or 2 years of income using these strength-based methodologies, you will be in a far better position to to navigate and to weather your unemployment or your employment transition, should that actually come. You'll have the peace of mind that says, hey, I have other things I can do. I have a colleague who, while he was preparing to retire from active service with the Highway Patrol, also was interested in real estate. He was only tertiarily interested in real estate, but then he got quite interested in it, went and took the classes and went through the training and took the tests. And sure enough, right after he retired, he went into real estate. And to his credit, every time I'm talking to him, I ask him how is he doing. He says, I'm as busy as I want to be. In the world of real estate, that's kind of how it is. And because he has this as a secondary source of income, it's not something that he has to rely on. So he's in a good place. And he has that peace of mind. Usually it's that same peace of mind that most of us look to find. Again, the intention here is not to make you paranoid about your job or your job prospects, but to make you more prepared. Because in truth, unless you own your own business, you don't have a whole lot of control over your immediate future. There's some things you can do to impact your future in a good way, as well as in a bad way. But then, by and large, much of that is way out of your hands. It might be the whims of the economy. It might be the whims of society. It might be something even beyond the economy itself. Some sort of world event, to include some sort of natural disaster that could occur that would change whatever your primary plan is. So establishing a plan B gives you back some of the control, because every job is only temporary. So there you have it. I hope that you found this presentation helpful, and if you did, I hope that you will feel free to share it with others, but even more importantly, take action today and reclaim some of the control over your future that you had. You can find more information about Soldier Cop and some of the other ideas if you visit us at www.soldiercop.com. Hey, thanks a lot for your time, your attention, and I wish you the greatest of luck in your future endeavors. Keep moving forward. Have a great one.